mythology about settling the continent. And of course, that's what settler colonial societies are. I mean, settler colonialism is the most savage form of imperialism. It's not called imperialism, like you don't call conquest of the national territory imperialism, but it is by any rational criteria. And it's the worst kind, because it has to exterminate the native populations. And after all, that's why the United States is a homogeneous society, and Europe isn't. Europe didn't exterminate everyone. They kind of assimilated them in a savagely forced nation-state structure on varied and complex societies. But they didn't exterminate them. Here they were just exterminated. And it was understood. Nobody tried to hide it for cause. And there's, I think, an average American would see something similar to the American myth in the Israeli myth, which may be part of the reason for sympathy, just kind of doing what we do. The other part of it is that Christian Zionism preceded Jewish Zionism and was much stronger, in fact. It was based on mythology about the Bible, the chosen people have to return to the Holy Land to God promised them, and so on. And that's very deep in American culture too, so that's another support. But these are complicated things. It's, in fact, one thing that is barely understood in the United States, there are two original sins of American society, and they're not understood. One of them is the extermination of the indigenous population. And that is so deeply buried that, say, the New York Review of Books, maybe the leading intellectual journal in the world, they had an article about 3 months ago, which is a review of work by a well-known American historian. And the reviewer says he opens by saying how surprised he was to learn that when Columbus arrived and then European explorers, there were only 1 million people from the steamy tropics to the Arctic, kind of hunter-gatherers straggling around. He's off by tens of millions, and they were advanced civilizations. I mean, this is genocide denial with a vengeance. There wasn't a single letter responding to it. Finally, after a couple of months, somebody must have gotten to them. The editors published a 5-line correction buried somewhere, which was even worse than the article. It said modern archaeological work has shown that maybe there were 18 million people in North America, including Mexico. Well, first of all, he wasn't talking about North America. It was the steaming tropics to the Arctic. And it was maybe 100 million people. And of course, they were not hunter-gatherers. The civilizations were just as advanced as Europe, except with regard to means of destruction. Europe is unique in its means of destruction. But other than that, there's not much to it. But this is, right in the intellectual, this is the intellectual elite, the liberal intellectual elite. With regard to American blacks, there is a mythology, a current mythology that we now live in a post-racial society. It's common. So people are surprised if there's any manifestation of racism. But what kind of a post-racial society is it? I mean, just take a look at the population in prisons. Prison population exploded since Reagan, having nothing to do with crime, having to do mostly with neoliberalism. We have a lot of superfluous people. And it's mostly black males. A lot of it on drug charges, which is a joke. But or just take a look at the history of African Americans. You take a look at the history of African Americans. It's been about maybe 30 years since first slaves arrived, in which there's been a modicum of freedom. Of course, first they were slaves. Civil War was supposed to have ended slavery, but it didn't. a system worse than slavery was instituted. Essentially, black life was criminalized. So a black man could be picked up for standing on a street corner or talking too loud or whatever. But and once he was